As government, we have got things to do and work to do. As we direct our efforts to resuscitate our economy amidst COVID-19, we should equally apply our efforts to revamping the social sectors that include skills training schools and trade centers. I wish to direct the Minister of Youth and Sport to find opportunities as enshrined in the 7th National Development Plan for the youth to venture into skills training and other entrepreneurship ventures. The youth should take advantage of the opportunities available and those that my government has facilitated. I expect the Ministry of Youth and Sport to provide leadership in a multi-sectoral manner as they guide the youth to become a positive demographic dividend in our economy amidst COVID-19. Countrymen and women, we have work to do. And as a way of starting this work, we must all be engaged into. I have since approved a 30 million kwacha youth empowerment scheme targeting artists countrywide to be launched in Lusaka soon. The National Arts Council, under the Ministry of Tourism and Arts, will implement this program. Countrymen and women, I direct the Ministry of Youth and Sport, the Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry, and the Citizen Economic Empowerment Commission, CEEC, to facilitate linkage for the youth to benefit from the development of industrial yards through the skills development and entrepreneurship project supported by the African Development Bank, ADB. Furthermore, government is facilitating youth access to other empowerment programs under the CEEC, such as the Cassava Value Chain Program and the Aquaculture Value Chain Initiative. Countrymen and women, my government has set aside $29 million United States dollars for the implementation of the Aquaculture Seed Fund under the Zambia Aquaculture Enterprise Development Project. This project is aimed at enhancing fish production and is earmarked to benefit more than 3,000 entrepreneurs, including youth and women. Therefore, I implore the Zambian youth to take keen interest in participating and profiting from different empowerment initiatives my government is putting in place, instead of protesting in the bush and taking pride in how many views of their protests were seen on social media. Countrymen and women, the Zambian youth I long to see is one that is taking the initiative, like that young man of Chunga Dumpsite Waste Management Association who transformed trash into cash and now has built a house, employs other youth, and is organizing other youths into a cooperative. Or Chile Kwamwamba, who has formed a cooperative with his young friends, and today the organization has spread right across the country. As government, we have seen that the reopening of examination classes is already giving us vital information which we should take into account as we are considering resumption of the remaining classes, as well as colleges and universities. Consultations with key stakeholders are currently underway on the reopening of the remaining classes, colleges and universities, bearing in mind the cold season as guided by the World Health Organization, Center for Disease Control, of course through the Ministry of Health. The nation will be informed on the next course of action once our consultations are concluded. Ladies and gentlemen, guidelines for all sport disciplines to follow as they consider resuming sport activities have been developed. They include the following, but are not limited to: These are: 1, guiding principles stipulated by the statutory instruments number 21 and 22 of 2020. 2, guidelines for various sports disciplines which have been categorized as non-contact, semi-contact, and full contact sports. And 3, safeguards as outlined in the health guidelines for football at Premier and National Division 1 leagues. And hence we believe that these leagues will resume action in July 2020, and of course with strict observance of health guidelines. Countrymen and women, the Minister of Health, the Minister of Youth, Sport and Child Development, and the Minister of Local Government would be inspecting sports arenas to ensure that these are ready for action under the new normal. Countrymen and women, in the tourism sector, as I stated in my last address, we also have to get back to work. I therefore announce the reopening of all international airports which were closed immediately. Let me direct the Minister of Communication and Transport, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Home Affairs, and the Minister of Tourism to work together in ensuring stringent health guidelines in these airports, such as screening, testing passengers with symptoms, masking, social distancing, frequent washing of hands, and follow-up on passengers who test positive and sending them into quarantine until they test negative. Countrymen and women, the reopening of all international airports in the country will trigger the recovery of the tourism sector, not only Livingstone, but the country at large. We have to get back to work fully under the new normal. Countrymen and women, we have been advised by health experts that coronavirus thrived in extreme cold weather conditions like the weather we're experiencing currently. We have learned that a number of countries in Asia where COVID-19 was first reported have experienced resurgence in cases after restrictions were eased, despite an initial aggressive approach to slowing the progress of COVID-19 having been successful. In some instances, countries have had to reinstitute public health and social measures, such as restriction on movement and interaction between people, to once again fight the spread of the virus. As such, we need to be cautious when it comes to easing up any restrictions, lest we risk the spike in the number of COVID-19 cases. In view of this, bars and nightclubs will remain closed until the weather conditions are favorable and special and specific guidelines for this subsector are devised and put in place. For avoidance of doubt and for the sake of clarity, I'm saying bars and nightclubs will remain closed until the weather conditions are favorable and special and specific guidelines for this subsector are devised and put in place. Obviously, we all know what happens when one gets drunk. It's very difficult to control such. All I can assure you is that my government will continue with screening, testing, and isolating those infected with the virus and are asymptomatic, and also continue monitoring the situation and take measures as the epidemic evolves. We cannot afford to drop our guard. COVID-19 is real and still here with us. We should continue observing the health guidelines of hand washing and sanitizing, face masking and social distancing, even more, what with these extreme weather conditions we are in. So far, the majority of our people have in the last 3 months worked with unity of purpose to keep the COVID-19 outbreak under control. This is indeed in line with our spirit of Ubuntu, which places the greater good before individual benefits. However, the biggest enemy we face today is complacence. The biggest enemy we face today is complacence. As I conclude, I wish to encourage you, fellow countrymen and women, to continue adhering to the set guidelines and social measures as follows: mandatory use of face masks by everyone in public, avoiding unnecessary crowding and ensuring social distancing, provision of facilities for hand hygiene and sanitation, regular cleaning and disinfection of public amenities, observation of personal hygiene and cough etiquette, and avoiding unnecessary movements. Countrymen and women, I implore all of you, in particular the youth, to join me on this journey, for we have got work to do, and an economy to keep buoyant. As the Apostle Paul says in the book of Colossians chapter 3, verses 23 to 24, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. My government, like I've already said, will continue to monitor the situation and advise the nation on the necessary action to be undertaken as the pandemic evolves. We'll continue monitoring the situation and advise the nation on the necessary action to be taken as the pandemic evolves. God bless you all. God bless Zambia. I thank you.
President of the Republic of Zambia, Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu, addressing the nation.